This rather nondescript looking 3D printed gadget is a coaxial light source, and it has totally revolutionized the results we can get from our microscope. It's really easy to build, and best of all, the parts are dirt cheap. Today we are going to show you why we built this, how we built it, and share some of the results that we obtained using this nifty little thing. We started this project because we wanted to image one specific microchip. This is a very special, SPAD focal plane array, and it was given to us by a company called RoboSense. In the end, the resulting images from this microchip were disappointing, but other opaque objects we imaged gave fantastic results. So, I guess the first thing to discuss is what exactly is a coaxial light, and why is it special? Our microscope is what is known as a transmission type. This means that it is designed for the illumination to come from below the sample, and for some of that to then hit the objective lens and up into the microscope. The downside to this type of microscope is that you can only image translucent samples. To be able to image solid objects, we need to be using a reflection type microscope. Here the lighting is from above the sample, and reflects back into our objective lens, and up through the optical chain. But there is a problem with that. With high magnification microscopes, there is very little gap between the objective and the sample. The solution is to illuminate from within the microscope itself, down the optical path and back up to the eyepiece. While that might sound pretty complicated, and a great way to bugger up a microscope, it's actually very easy to make. This is a beam splitting plate, basically a glorified piece of glass. It has a coating on it to ensure that light striking it at 45 degrees, will be 50% transmitted and 50% reflected. This is the piece of magic that makes this coaxial light source work. So, let's just take a look at how this all happens. From the side of the device, we illuminate a diffuser screen. This is just used to remove any structure from the light source. This light then falls on the beam splitting plate, half of it will then pass straight through. We will put a beam stop here, to prevent any of this being reflected back. The light that is reflected off the beam splitter, then passes down through the tube lens and the objective, down to the sample we are trying to illuminate. The light that then reflects off the sample, goes back up through the objective and the tube lens. Some of this will then pass straight through the beam splitter and land on the camera sensor. Here, you can see what happens when we shine a small flashlight into this thing. The light shines down onto the target, making it visible. What is important is that this light is completely parallel to the reflected light, and this removes any shadows. There is one small caveat to this setup. Our microscope is focused to infinity, the light entering the camera unit is parallel. This basically means that we can move the camera sensor further away and not affect the optical arrangement. So, we can insert our coaxial light between the tube lens and the camera module, and never need to open up our microscope. Which means my clumsy human assistant won't be able to screw this up. When we were researching this subject, we suddenly realized that we already had a light source that was designed for this application. It's a very cool RGB light with controllable levels. We bought this for a project we did a couple of years ago, without realizing its true purpose. It cost less than $10 at the time. Right, it seems we already have a suitable light source, we have bought a beam splitter, and the concept is pretty simple. So, let's quickly run through the build process for this handy-dandy little device, and to be frank, it was an absolute doddle. Right, I'm going to keep this brief, and do a speed run through the build process. As you can see from the 3D, this is a really simple piece of mechanical design. There are actually only two parts that need to be 3D printed. We got two of the beam splitters. My ham-fisted human assistant has what is known in British parlance as form. So I got two in case he broke one of the bloody things. They cost less than $3 each. When test fitting the beam splitter, it was clear that we need to make the light trap dark, to stop the reflection from the 3D printed material. So, we sprayed everything matte black. Firstly, it just looks better, but also because this is an optical component, reflections should always be minimized. But even with a black spray finish, the reflections from the beam stop were excessive, so we resorted to our weapon of last resort, Musu black paint. This isn't exactly Vanta black, but it's pretty cheap and we have a pot of the stuff kicking around. Next we glued in some C-mount adapters. We sized the ends to be a strong friction fit, but added epoxy resin to make sure that they hold fast. These C-mount flanges have both male and female adapters, and I'm going to resist the urge to make any childish jokes about that previous statement, mostly for the sake of brevity. The beam splitter is held in place with a couple of drops of epoxy resin, and then M3 machine screws are used to hold the assembly together. Before painting, we added some threaded inserts to the main body for these screws. If anybody wants a copy of the 3D files, just drop us an email at the address on screen now. And that is it. So, we now have a coaxial light adapter to play with, so let's see how well it actually works. Highly reflective objects, like this shiny little coin, are always difficult to image under a microscope, when illuminated with a traditional light source. As you can see here, at 100 times magnification, the traditional overhead light source is seriously struggling to give any kind of usable image. But, as soon as we switch to the coaxial light, a beautifully detailed and rich picture emerges. The stamped grooves and the smallest of scratches are clearly visible. If we switch up to 400 times magnification, the traditional light source is totally useless. But, once again, the coaxial light source delivers results. We were aware that coaxial lighting could improve the result when imaging these kinds of shiny objects, but when we started out, we really had no idea of just how massive that improvement would be. This is the OPT301, a combined photodiode and amplifier. The glass window is missing, and it has been kicking around in a desk drawer for over a year. Under a normal overhead light source, we can see some of the top metal traces showing very bright, but there is little in the way of details. When using the coaxial light, two things become apparent. Firstly, we can now see far more details, and can even see the second layer metal traces under the silicon dioxide insulation layer. Secondly, we can see that exposed semiconductors, and desk drawers, do not mix well. Hi, it's post-production Arthur here. Some of you may have already noticed that there appears to be quite a lot of dust within our microscope images. While this video was being recorded, less than 100 meters from my human assistant's home, is a bloody construction site. We spent hours disassembling the various optical components and cleaning them, only to discover that by opening up everything, even more of the damn dust had entered. So, we kind of gave up. Anyway, back to the video. This interesting optoelectronic device is rather special, and today is the first time it has been shown to the general public. This is a single photon avalanche diode, high-resolution two-dimensional focal plane array. It might sound like a bit of a mouthful, But this is the beating heart of the latest generation of automotive LiDAR systems, from a company called RoboSense. We are making a short video series about the recent advances in LiDAR systems, and we will explore this interesting device further in the second part of that video series. Our first impression of how this microchip looked under the coaxial light was a little disappointing. There was very little detail to be seen. We assume that the highly noise-sensitive analog signal processing circuits that are needed before SPAD elements can be digitized is hidden away under layers of metal to prevent interference. Even the SPAD array block looks like little more than a bunch of dots. So we took a look using the traditional overhead light. With the standard type light source, almost all of the silicon area was black, but the SPAD array becomes more interesting. We suddenly realized that those dots were in fact a microlens array, on top of the SPAD sensors. So, we figured we would try and image with both light sources being active, and while our results are pretty shitty, it does seem like a technique we should try and learn more about. Well, we started this project to be able to better image semiconductors under the microscope, so let's do some more of that. In a previous project, we bought a literal bag of chips. We think that these are surplus sections of multi-project wafers. For a very long time, we had been wondering about how to increase the usefulness of our existing microscope. This microscope isn't a lab-grade instrument, it cost us around $500 when we got it, so it isn't exactly a disposable item either. Given how easy it was to create this wonderful upgrade to our microscope, we will be looking into other things we can make to enhance our microscope even further. Obviously, when handling microchips, a clean room is normally called for. These examples were never in pristine condition, even when we received them. And they haven't exactly been treated with too much care by my human assistant either. Hopefully, once the nearby construction site wraps up, we can give everything a damn good clean, and we will be able to get some better results from this rather whizzy little upgrade. Right, we now have a basic coaxial light source. So, you might be wondering, what's next for this project? Well, perhaps next we can look at some alternative light sources. We already have a tunable RGB light, so with some color mixing we can get pretty much any visible color we want. So what's left? Perhaps we can look at some invisible wavelengths of light. That's right, it's time to go infrared. Just to be clear, we are talking about the near infrared, not thermal IR. The camera we are using has had its infrared cut filter removed, and the near IR band that this camera can see is actually a wider chunk of the spectrum than all the visible bits put together. This was just a quick experiment with an infrared LED shining onto a PTFE diffuser at the input to the coaxial adapter. It's easy to imagine creating a special light source for this, and playing with multispectral microscopy. In general, we are rather pleased with this little creation. We are pretty sure that the quality we are getting from it isn't the best, at least compared to commercial offerings. But many commercial solutions are really expensive, often hundreds or thousands of dollars. So, in terms of bang for buck, this project offered outstanding value. And we did get incredibly lucky with this project. Not every microscope is arranged with a parallel light path to the camera. And don't forget, if you want a copy of the 3D files, then just drop us an email. The design is pretty crappy, but maybe it will give you a starting point for a better design of your own. And finally, we want to show you this. It is a project we have been working on for months. It's a bit special and seems to be a first of its kind on YouTube, so make sure you are subscribed to find out what this is. If anyone can correctly guess what this does, we will give you a big shout out in that video. Anyway, that's all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed our little video, or at least found some parts of it interesting. If you got this far in our video, then hopefully you can also help out with the care and feeding of YouTube's evil algorithm. And besides which, those like and subscribe buttons are not going to press themselves. We don't have any sponsors, nor are we looking for any either. At least this way, we can say what we want, and we can pick and choose the subjects we actually want to cover. If you have any ideas for topics you want us to look into, please drop them into the comments. We do read all the comments, and even reply to most of them. This is a hobby channel, so we don't have a lot of resources with which to make these videos. So if you want to help out, you could always drop us a super chat, or just buy us a coffee. It is our sincere hope that you got to learn at least one new thing from watching this video, and that it was worth the time you invested. After all, time is the only truly valuable resource that we have. And please don't forget to share your video ideas with us. Good ideas are welcome, bad ideas are tolerated, because the only truly tragic thing in this world is to have no ideas at all. And next, perhaps you want to watch one of these marvelous videos.